Hello and welcome back to the Savage Gentleman podcast, where we explore what it means to live as the men God created us to be. That's men of purpose, men of courage, and men of conviction. I'm your host, Pastor Benjamin Wilson, and I'm excited to dive into a new and powerful series with you today. This series is entitled The Lion's Whisper, Hearing God's Voice in a Noisy World. Over the next several episodes, we'll be uncovering what it means to hear and follow the voice of God amidst the constant noise of our world. Today, we're laying the foundation. This foundational episode is entitled The Call Beneath the Roar. Over the next few moments, we will look at 3 scriptures that paint a picture of how God speaks, what it takes to hear him, and how to respond when we do. I want you to think about what it would mean for your life if you could clearly hear the voice of God guiding you. What it would mean for your role in the family. What it would mean for your role in the church, your role in the workplace, and in your community. We're going to start by looking at the men of Issachar as a foundation for discerning leadership. And to do this, we're going to start with 1 Chronicles 12:32. That's our first verse. 1 Chronicles 12:32, which says, "From Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do." Now, brothers, these men weren't just wise. They were discerning. They were able to see beyond the surface of what was happening in their world and recognize the deeper spiritual and cultural currents at play. The tribe of Issachar was not large or particularly powerful in a worldly sense, but their influence came from their insight. They had the unique ability to understand the times. They knew not only what was happening, but also why it mattered and what was required of them. They didn't let the cultural or political landscape dictate their actions. Instead, they looked to God for discernment and they responded with wisdom. In today's world, we're surrounded by noise, distractions, and pressures that try to shape how we think, act, and live. From social media to news outlets to entertainment, we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us how we should think, what we should think about, what we should value, pursue, and also what we should prioritize. But like the men of Issachar, we're called to see beyond the trends and understand the times, and to do this with a spiritual lens. We're called to recognize what's at stake and know what's truly needed. This is about discerning the heart of God and understanding his purpose and our unique context. For us as men of God, current men of Issachar, understanding the times means being aware of the challenges and issues that our families, communities, and culture face, and knowing how to navigate these complexities with godly wisdom. It's not about letting the shifting values of the world define our identity or dictate our actions. Instead, we look to God's unchanging truth. We need to be men who don't just react to what's happening around us, but act from a place of divine wisdom, knowing that our actions have the power to shape our families, churches, workplaces, and our society. In many ways, the men of Issachar were the cultural and spiritual watchmen of their time. They had a sense of urgency, but also a commitment to align their actions with God's will. And that's what we're called to be in today's world. Men who aren't swayed by the ever-changing winds of culture, but instead seek to hear and follow the unchanging voice of God. To do this, we must be intentional in discerning his voice amidst the noise, understanding not only the what of our circumstances, but the why, and ultimately what God is calling us to do in response. This isn't about being passive. It's about being bold, standing firm, and leading in every area of our life. The world around us is chaotic. The noise is constant, but when we can hear the lion's whisper, the guidance of God, then we can rise above that noise and lead with confidence and clarity. Our next verse is Jeremiah 33:3. Real easy to remember. Jeremiah 33. And it gives us a powerful promise. Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Think about that. God, the creator of the universe, is inviting us to reach out to him. He's saying, come to me, ask me, seek me out, and I'll respond. He doesn't want us to remain in the dark or to feel lost as we navigate life. God is making it clear that he's close, accessible, and willing to reveal wisdom that goes beyond human understanding. That phrase, great and unsearchable things, is profound. These are things we cannot uncover through our own logic, resources, or our own intellect. They require their insights and mysteries that only God in his infinite wisdom can reveal. And here's the awesome thing in that. He wants to share them with us. God isn't withholding, he's waiting. He's ready to guide us, to show us paths we did not know existed, solutions to problems we couldn't solve on our own, and wisdom that transcends the limitations of the world. But here's the challenge. The challenge is this. Are we calling out to him? I'll ask you again. Are we calling out to him? Are we reaching out beyond our understanding and actively seeking his voice? God wants to speak to us, guide us in every area of our life, but it requires intentionality on our part, intentionality. It's not enough to simply hope that he'll intervene. We need to take that step to pursue his guidance with persistence and humility. So brothers, in this series isn't just about hearing his voice. It's about chasing after it. It's about actively seeking his wisdom and inviting him to speak into our lives. In today's world where self-reliance and independence are often valued above everything else, calling out to God requires humility. It means acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, that we're not meant to navigate this life alone. As men, we're often pressured to appear strong and to have it all figured out. But Jeremiah 33:3 is a reminder that true strength lies in seeking God's guidance and admitting that we need wisdom greater than our own. It's about inviting God into our decisions at work, in our families, in our relationships, and in our communities. Imagine the impact of this. If we as men became intentional about calling out to God, we would see our lives transformed. We'll be equipped with divine insight to lead our families, to make wise choices in our workplaces, and to stand firm in our faith, even when the world pushes back. Jeremiah 33:3 reassures us that we don't have to navigate the challenges of life alone. We have a God who's not only ready to answer, but who desires to share unsearchable things with us. These truths and insights can shape the course of our lives and the lives of those around us. So as we move forward, let this verse be a foundation for us. Let it remind us that God's voice is available, even if we're willing to call out, to take that step of faith and reach out for the wisdom he only can provide. Let's be men who refuse to settle for what the world offers and instead actively pursue the unsearchable things God is ready to reveal. The next verse is this, Isaiah 30, verse 21. And it tells us, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. This verse is a profound reminder of God's faithfulness to guide us. It assures us that God's voice isn't reserved for special occasions or big life decisions alone. His guidance is constant, present in every step of our journey through both significant and even the seemingly insignificant choices we make every day. It's not about waiting for a monumental moment to hear him speak. It's about recognizing that us in the day-to-day, moment by moment, pointing the way forward. Think about the practical applications of that. When you're making decisions in your marriage, asking how to better support and love your spouse, God's voice is there whispering his wisdom. When you're raising your children and wondering how to guide them in this complicated world, God's voice is speaking, offering insight and patience. When you're wrestling with the decision at work or questioning your next step in life, he's right there ready to give direction. This isn't just abstract encouragement. It's a promise that no matter where life takes you, his voice will guide you. But here's the challenge. God's voice often comes as a whisper. He doesn't force himself into our lives. He doesn't shout over the noise. His guidance requires us to lean in, to quiet ourselves, and to truly listen. In today's culture, that's no small task. We live in a world filled with noise, constant input from our devices, voices telling us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live our life. Every day, we're bombarded by 1,000 messages, shaping our definition of success, value, and purpose. It's a never-ending roar of expectations. But Isaiah 30:21 calls us to a different posture. God's whisper requires us to turn down the volume of the world and to tune into the frequency of his voice. He's not competing for our attention. He's waiting for us to come close, to prioritize his voice over the noise. And when we do, something extraordinary happens. We start to discern his guidance, not as a distant echo, but as an intimate, personal direction that's meant specifically for us. God's voice is not generic, it's specific, it's personal. He knows your journey, your challenges, your calling, and he's ready to guide you if you're willing to listen. This verse shows us that God's direction isn't one size fits all either. It's tailored to who you are, where you're at, and where he's calling you to go. The phrase, "this is the way, walk in it," is a personal invitation. It's God saying, "I see the path before you, and I'm right here beside you, leading you forward." It's a reminder that no matter what we face, no matter how lost or uncertain we might feel, he's already mapped out the way, and he's inviting us to trust and follow. So ask yourself, are you leaning in to hear that whisper? Are you making space for God's voice in a world that's constantly pulling you in different directions? Because the truth is this: if we're listening, if we're tuned in, we'll know the way. We'll know when to move, when to pause, when to stand firm, and when to take a step of faith. God's voice will become the compass that guides every area of our lives. Let's commit to being men who don't just hear about God's guidance, but actively seek it, who let his whisper shape our decisions, our relationships, and our actions. Let's walk in the way he has prepared, confident that his voice will always lead us on the right path. Here's the challenge for you this week. I want you to set aside time each day. If all you can spare in your day is 10 minutes, brother, start there. Find a place where you can remove distractions and be alone with God. In that time, I want you to do two things. The first is this: ask God to make his voice clear in your life. Just as Jeremiah 33 tells us, call out to him. Be direct, be honest. I've often said that God doesn't expect or require us to speak to him with eloquence. He isn't looking for big words or crafted sentences. He only desires that we speak to him honestly and with authenticity. Pray and ask God to help you tune in to hear his voice more clearly and to recognize his guidance in your everyday decisions. And the second is this: brothers, practice listening. Silence your thoughts, silence your requests, and listen. This time is not about filling it with words. It's about creating space for God to speak. And as you do this, keep Isaiah 30:21 in mind. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." Let that verse remind you that God's guidance is there, ready for you to hear it, if you make space to listen. At the end of each one of these moments, each one of these sessions, jot down anything that stood out to you, any sense of peace, sense of direction, conviction, or insight. Even if you don't feel you heard anything specific, just write down what came to mind. Because brothers, this isn't just an exercise. It's not just a challenge. It's a discipline you are building over time. As we go deeper into this series, you'll find that this simple act of listening and recording on a daily basis will prepare you to discern God's voice more clearly and confidently. God is ready to speak to you, but it requires intentionality on your part. This week, let's take the first step together. Let's be men who listen, who pursue the whisper of God, and who are ready to act when he speaks. As we move forward in this series, we're going to explore practical ways to prepare ourselves to hear God's voice, to recognize his guidance, and to step out in faith. Each one of our episodes will take us deeper into understanding how to tune in, even when the world around us is filled with distractions. So, brothers, I invite you to join me on this journey. Make the decision now to lean in, to call out, and to listen for that whisper of guidance that God has waiting for you. This isn't just another series. This is an opportunity to be transformed, to become the man God created you to be and the man the world needs you to be. Thank you for joining me today on The Savage Gentleman. I'm your host, Pastor Benjamin. Through the next time, be savage, be gentle, be extraordinary.
If your faith could use a boost, you're a man of action, and you're looking to grow in your faith alongside like-minded men. Let's dive in together. We invite you to join the discussion on the Savage Gentleman's Padlet page. This is where we can dive deeper, share our insights, ideas, and reflections. Let's talk about how our lives are being shaped as men of God. And don't forget to join the Savage Gentleman's Facebook page. It's another fantastic space to connect, share insights, and support each other on this journey of biblical masculinity. The links to both the Padlet page and Facebook page are in the description. You can also find them through the Savage Gentleman's YouTube channel. We're looking forward to hearing from you and seeing how God is moving in your life. Until next time, be savage, be gentle, be extraordinary. Join us today.